Now, I want to talk about the election of Lincoln because I believe that there's a huge misrepresentation of his election. Now, they're going to say that, he wasn't on the ballot in the South. Okay, now what I'm going to tell you is totally different from what they tell you. Now, the reason why he wasn't on the ballot in the South because he was representing the South. The black Republicans, because the black Republicans were a thing back then. Notice that in history they don't really mention the black Republicans, but even Stephen Douglas mentioned the black Republicans when they were debating with Lincoln. He would say Lincoln and the black Republicans. Okay, so the black Republicans were a thing back then, but notice that historians don't really mention this. Now, as I said, slavery is a black thing. Okay, the black Republicans and Lincoln, they were saying, hey, they were trying to solve the problem. We are going to maintain slavery in the South or wherever it exists and not expand it into the territories. And white people love that. They love that. But of course, the other candidates were trying to paint Lincoln as if he was an abolitionist. Okay, in order to win, that's how they do. They fight dirty. But that's what the black Republicans were about. They were about maintaining slavery and not expanding into territories. And if you don't believe me, you could just listen or read Lincoln's inauguration address. He basically says that no, I'm not about getting rid of slavery. I was never about getting rid of slavery. So slavery was not in danger under Lincoln's election. It was not in danger at all. Okay, so why are people going around saying that basically the Republicans were anti-slavery? Now, the radical Republicans in the North, because they were abolitionists, they were about getting rid of slavery. But the thing is that the Northerners would not vote for Lincoln if he was about getting rid of slavery. Okay, the radical Republicans, they agreed with one part of their platform, which was not expanding it into the territories, but maintaining it. No, they didn't agree with that. So the radical Republicans were basically based in the North. The black Republicans were based in the South. So Lincoln and the black Republicans, that's why he was not on the ballot, because he was representing the South. He had to convince the North. Okay, now, of course, there are Democrats in the South as well. Those Democrats did not like Lincoln because they liked slavery as well. And it's very rare for Democrats to like slavery because mostly Democrats are about freedom, which were in the North. Okay, Democrats, because Democrats were notoriously racist and bigoted. Racist, bigoted people don't like being around black people. But these Democrats didn't mind exploiting black people. But most Democrats do not like being around black people. That's why in the North they had de facto segregation. And they were pushing down black people because most of the Democrats were in the North, not the South. Okay, and as I said, slavery is a black thing. The black Republicans were about maintaining slavery in the South. That's why he was not on the ballot in the South, because he was representing the South, and he had to convince the North, because the North, that's where most of the votes are. That's where most of the power is, in the North, not the South. So he had to convince the North about their constitution. Okay, the Black Republican Constitution. Now, the reason why the Democrats in the South did not like Lincoln is because they wanted to expand slavery into the territories. That's why they voted for John Breckinridge, because John Breckinridge was about popular sovereignty, and he's also about federal slave codes, or so he was about like expanding slavery into the territories. But the black Republicans were saying that no, no, we're not doing that. So they didn't like that. They really, really didn't like that. So they didn't like Lincoln. So I would say that those are the people that actually seceded. Okay, because obviously in the secession they talked about slavery and how it was important, stuff like that. But there was two types of people. There was the black Republicans, and then there was the Democrats. The Democrats did not like the black Republicans. Even Jefferson Davis talked about the tyranny of black politicians or black Republicans. He talked about that, and he didn't like the abolitionists as well. So that's what you have to understand. Like, Lincoln was not about getting rid of slavery. He really, really wasn't. And the black Republicans. So this whole nonsense about how Republicans were about getting rid of slavery, that's not the case. The radical Republicans, yes. And the only way that they could get rid of slavery, because it was understood by the North and the South, because that was the Union, right? The free states and the slave states was the Union. It was agreed that There's going to be free states and slave states. Now, the only way that the radical Republicans or the abolitionists could get rid of slavery is through conflict, through a war, and that's what they did. That's what they did. They created a war in order to get rid of slavery.